The unwanted gift, music the sky over. The Australian outback burned orange as 3 massive vessels descended through the atmosphere. Commander Alina Reeves stood at the edge of the landing zone, her arms crossed, watching the Caloran transport ship settle onto the red Earth with surprising grace for their enormous size. Dust billowed outward in great waves and the ground trembled beneath her boots. This was the 3rd year in a row that the Galactic Council had made their delivery, and Alina knew exactly what to expect. Next to her, Dr. James Chin adjusted his protective goggles and muttered something under his breath. He was her chief technology officer, a man who had spent 20 years trying to reverse engineer alien technology with limited success. The wrinkles around his eyes had deepened considerably since Earth had joined the Galactic Council 5 years ago, and his hair had gone completely gray. Alina suspected that frustration had aged him more than time. The cargo bay doors of the first ship began to open with a hydraulic hiss that echoed across the empty landscape. Robotic drones emerged, carrying massive containers suspended on anti-gravity platforms. As the first container was lowered to the ground and opened, Alina felt her jaw tighten. Inside was a jumbled mess of twisted metal, shattered components, and technology so outdated that even the Cathurians themselves had deemed it worthless. Ambassador Vrax materialized beside them in a shimmer of teleportation light. He was Calthurian, standing nearly 8 feet tall with 4 arms and skin that shifted between purple and blue depending on his mood. His face was elongated, almost horse-like, with 3 eyes arranged in a triangle formation. The translator device embedded in his throat crackled as he spoke, rendering his native language into perfectly accented English. "Greetings, Commander Reeves," Vra said, his tone dripping with the kind of politeness that barely masked contempt. The Galactic Council, in its infinite generosity, has once again provided humanity with technological assistance befitting your developmental stage. May this gift aid your species in its gradual ascension toward true civilization. Alina turned to face him, keeping her expression neutral despite the anger bubbling inside her. "You mean garbage, Ambassador?" Vra's skin flickered toward a darker purple, the Caloran equivalent of a dismissive laugh. "Such crude terminology. Commander, these are decommissioned components from our finest vessels. While no longer suitable for Council use, they are more than adequate for a species that only achieved faster than light capability a mere decade ago. You should be grateful." Dr. Chin stepped forward, his scanner already analyzing the contents of the nearest container. "I'm detecting technology from at least 8 different species here: Kethoran, Vorith, Zynthian, Mexer, Gorvian, Trellic, Bandorian, and something I don't even recognize. None of this is compatible with each other. Your observation skills are commendable," Dr. Vra replied smoothly. "When Council species decommission our warships, we salvage components of value and dispose of the remainder. Earth has been selected as the recipient of these disposed materials. With proper application and perhaps a century or 2 of study, your engineers should be able to construct several adequate defensive satellites, or perhaps a small patrol vessel." "A patrol vessel," Alina repeated, slowly, watching as more containers were unloaded. Mountains of technological debris were growing across the landing zone, gleaming in the fading sunlight. like a graveyard of broken dreams, from 8 different species worth of incompatible military surplus. Precisely, Vra said, all 4 of his arms spreading wide in a gesture that might have been meant as encouraging. The Council believes in supporting developing species, though of course certain limitations must remain in place. Advanced weaponry and propulsion systems are restricted to species that have proven their maturity and stability. Humanity has much to prove before such privileges are granted. Elena's mind flashed back to the Titan incident 3 years ago. Pirates had attacked the mining colony, and Earth had sent desperate calls for help to every Council species within range. The Calarian peacekeeping fleet had been only 90 minutes away. They had monitored the situation, documented the attack for their records, and done absolutely nothing. By the time Earth's own defense ships arrived from Mars, 2,000 colonists were dead, and the pirates had escaped into deep space. When questioned, Ambassador Vrax had simply stated that the attack fell outside Council jurisdiction and that humanity needed to learn to defend its own territories. The message had been clear: Earth was on its own, tolerated but not protected, given scraps but never respect. Dr. Chen. Scanner beeped insistently. Commander, you need to see this. The power signatures from some of these components are extraordinary. This Vorith energy core, even in its damaged state, is operating at levels that shouldn't be possible. And these Xinthian shield generators, they're using principles of quantum field manipulation that our scientists have only theorized about, all of which is useless. VR interjected. Because your species lacks the technical sophistication to integrate such diverse technologies, the Vorith use biologic interfaces that require genetic compatibility. The Xinthian systems operate on frequency modulations that would require computational power far beyond Earth's current capabilities. The Mexeru weaponry relies on exotic matter that you cannot synthesize. Even if you possess the knowledge, you lack the infrastructure. Elena watched the ambassador carefully, noting the subtle condescension in every word, the absolute certainty in his voice. The Calarians and the other Council species had made their position clear from the moment Earth had made first contact. Humanity was primitive, barely worthy of acknowledgement, useful only as a curiosity and perhaps as a cautionary tale about premature space exploration. But as Elena looked at the growing mountains of allegedly useless technology, something shifted in her mind. An idea began to form, dangerous and audacious and probably completely insane. She turned to Dr. Chen, keeping her voice casual. How many different species did you say this technology came from? 8 confirmed, possibly 9 if this unidentified component is from a species not in the standard database. Chen replied, still focused on his scanner readings, and each species uses fundamentally different approaches to power generation, shielding, weapon systems, and propulsion. Completely different. The Vorith use bioorganic fusion. The Calarians use antimatter containment. The Xinthians use zero-point energy extraction. Nothing interfaces with anything else. It's like being given parts from 8 different types of vehicles and being told to build a car. Elena felt a smile tugging at the corners of her mouth, the kind of smile they usually preceded her most reckless decisions. What if we stop trying to build what they expect us to Build, Chin looked up from his scanner. Confusion evident on his face. I don't follow. They gave us Vorith power cores, Ketharan weapons, Zenthian shields, Mexeral materials, all of it. Incompatible by their standards, but what if incompatibility is only incompatibility if you're trying to make things work the way they're supposed to work? Commander, you're not suggesting. I'm suggesting that maybe we've been thinking about this all wrong. The Council species build ships where everything integrates perfectly because that's how they think. Everything ordered, everything in its place, everything following established protocols, but that's not how humans work, is it? Dr. Chen's eyes widened as understanding dawned. You want to combine all of it, build one ship instead of several patrol vessels, use technology from 8 different species in ways none of them ever imagined. They think we're too primitive to make their trash useful. They're counting on us, failing on us, wasting decades trying to reverse engineer individual components while staying exactly where they want us, weak, dependent, and grateful for whatever scraps they throw our way. Ambassador Vrax had been listening with evident amusement, his skin shifting to a lighter, more entertained shade of purple. Commander Reeves, surely you cannot be serious. What you're proposing is technologically impossible. No species in the galaxy has successfully integrated incompatible alien technologies on the scale you're suggesting. The computational requirements alone would be staggering. The power distribution challenges insurmountable. The structural integrity concerns catastrophic, impossible by your standards, Alina said quietly. But you're not human, Ambassador. You don't think like we do. You don't have our history of making the impossible work through sheer stubbornness and creative problem solving. Vra's 3 eyes blinked in sequence, a gesture that indicated genuine curiosity mixed with condescension. And what history is that? Commander, we're the species that looked at the sound barrier and broke it. We're the species that put people on our moon using computers less powerful than the devices we carry in our pockets. We're the species that split the atom, mapped our own genetic code, and built a worldwide communication network from scratch. We've spent our entire existence being told what's impossible, and we've made a habit of doing it anyway. For a moment, Var said nothing. Then his skin shifted to a deep, amused purple. I see. Well, Commander, I wish you the best of luck with your impossible project. The Council watch your efforts with great interest. Perhaps in a century or two you might manage to construct something functional, however primitive. You're really serious about this? 5 years ago, humanity joined the Galactic Council as a third-tier species. We're still third-tier species. Nothing has changed because the Council doesn't want anything to change. They want us exactly where we are, subordinate, manageable, and perpetually grateful for their condescension. She turned to face Chin directly. I'm tired of playing by their rules. I'm tired of accepting their charity and their contempt. I'm tired of watching them look down at us while our people die because we're not worth protecting. So yes, I'm serious. We're going to take their trash and we're going to build something that makes them regret their arrogance. Dr. Chin looked at the scrap metal, then back at Alina. Slowly, a smile spread across his face, and she could see the same reckless determination that had driven humanity to achieve the impossible throughout its history. Will need a team, engineers, who think differently, scientists who aren't afraid to break rules, technicians willing to risk everything. On a crazy idea, I know exactly who to recruit. Helena said. The council has spent 5 years dismissing our best minds as too radical, too unconventional, too human. We're going to gather every brilliant misfit they've rejected and give them the chance to prove that humanity's greatest weakness is actually our greatest strength. She pulled out her communication device and began composing a message, her fingers moving with certainty. We'll need a name for this project, something that captures what we're trying to do, Chin thought. For a moment, looking at the setting sun, reflecting off the mountains of alien technology Phoenix were taking their ashes and rising from them. Elena smiled. Project Phoenix it is. Let's show the galaxy what humanity can do when we stop trying to meet their expectations and start exceeding our own. As night fell over the Australian outback, the two of them stood among the debris of 8 alien civilizations cast off technology, planning something that would either change humanity's place in the galaxy forever or end in catastrophic failure. Either way, Elena thought it would be spectacularly human. The revolution had begun, born from contempt and scrap metal, fueled by human audacity and the refusal to accept limitations imposed by those who underestimated what determination and creativity could achieve when given impossible odds. Rising from the ashes, Luna Station 7 hung in the darkness like a forgotten monument to humanity's ambitions. The facility had been built 12 years ago during the height of the Mars terraforming initiative, designed to serve as a way station and research hub. When political support for the project collapsed and funding evaporated, the station had been quietly abandoned. Its existence remained in a few classified databases, but for all practical purposes, it had ceased to exist in any official capacity. That made it perfect for what Commander Elena Reeves had in mind. The first supply shipment arrived on a cold morning in March. Elena watched from the observation deck as automated cargo haulers guided containers through the loading bay. Each container held pieces of the technological puzzle that the Galactic Council had dismissed as worthless. Dr. James Chin floated beside her in the zero-gravity environment, his eyes tracking the incoming cargo with the intensity of a treasure hunter discovering a lost vault. First batch contains the most promising components, Chin said, consulting his data tablet. Vorith bioorganic power cores, Xinthian quantum shield generators, and something extraordinary I found buried in the pile. You need to see this. They maneuvered through the station's corridors to the cargo bay, where technicians were already beginning to catalog the incoming materials. Chin led Elena to a specific container and keyed in the access code. The container's sides fell away, revealing a collection of metallic sheets that seemed to shift and flow like liquid mercury, changing color from silver to deep blue to almost transparent depending on the viewing angle. Mech's adaptive plating, Chin said, reverently reaching out to touch the nearest sheet. The metal responded to his contact, rippling outward from his fingertips in waves of light. The mechs used this for decorative architecture. They think it's pretty but structurally useless because it's too malleable for conventional engineering. Elena studied the material carefully. But you don't think it's useless. The mechs never discovered what happens when you subject this material to specific electromagnetic frequencies. It doesn't just change appearance, it changes density and molecular structure. In theory, we could use this for hull plating that shifts between solid and semi-phased states. A ship covered in this could become partially intangible, allowing energy weapons to pass harmlessly through. In theory, Alina repeated. In theory, Shin acknowledged with a grin, which is why we're here. Instead of presenting this to some council review board that would take 20 years to approve testing, over the following weeks the team assembled. Alina had recruited carefully, searching for engineers and scientists who had been rejected, dismissed, or blacklisted by the Galactic Council's rigid standards. She wanted minds that thought laterally, people who saw rules as suggestions rather than absolute limits. Individuals who had been told they were too radical, too experimental, too human to work on alien technology. Sarah Akono arrived first. She had been expelled from 3 different council research facilities for conducting unauthorized experiments with Xinthian quantum mechanics. The official reports labeled her as reckless and undisciplined. Alina saw someone who understood that progress required taking risks that cautious alien bureaucrats would never approve. Sarah took one look at the Xinthian shield generators and laughed with genuine delight. They said these were impossible for humans to operate because we lack the neural architecture for quantum entangled perception. Sarah said, circling the equipment like a predator sizing up prey. They were right, but they never considered using an intermediate translation layer. If we can build a buffer system that converts human neural patterns into quantum compatible signals, we bypass the biological limitation entirely. Next came Victor Clove, a weapons specialist who had been banned from council military installations for proposing modifications that violated established safety protocols. He examined the Keltheran plasma cannons with the careful attention of an artist studying a masterpiece, noting every detail, every design choice, every intentional limitation. These are engineered to fire in controlled bursts with mandatory cooling periods. Victor observed, his thick Russian accent making each word deliberate. Very safe, very efficient, very predictable. The Calarians build weapons that last for centuries. He paused, running his hand along the barrel of one cannon. But what if we don't care about longevity? What if we push them beyond their design limits, except that they'll burn out, and simply keep replacements ready? That seems wasteful, one of the technicians commented. Victor shook his head. The council builds for efficiency and sustainability. We build for results. There's a fundamental difference in philosophy. They want weapons that perform adequately forever. We want weapons that perform extraordinarily for as long as necessary, then we replace them. It's the difference between a craftsman's tool and a warrior's blade. The team grew to 43 people, engineers from Earth-struggling colonies on Mars and Europa, programmers who specialized in making incompatible systems communicate, material scientists who understood how to weld technologies that were never meant to touch. They came from humanity's overlooked corners, from projects that had failed, from dreams that had been dismissed as impossible. They were perfect. The real work began. In earnest, the central challenge was immediately apparent. Every piece of alien technology operated on Fundamentally different principles that Vorith bioorganic power cores used. Living tissue to generate energy through controlled fusion reactions. The Kelthuran antimatter containment systems required precise magnetic fields that fluctuated in patterns designed for Keelan computational architecture. The Xenthian quantum generators manipulated probability fields in ways that human physics was only beginning to understand. Nothing was designed to work together, everything contradicted everything else. We have a fundamental problem, Sarah announced during the third week, calling the senior team together in the station's main conference room. She projected holographic schematics that showed the incompatibilities in stark detail. The Vorith systems need organic interfaces. The Kelthuran weapons require plasma conduits that the Xenthian power distribution can't support, and the mech's adaptive plating requires quantum stabilization that none of our other systems can provide. By conventional engineering standards, this project is impossible. Then we don't use conventional engineering, Alina said. Simply, what do we use instead? Chin leaned forward, his eyes bright with the kind of excitement that came from seeing possibilities where others saw only problems. Human engineering. We stopped trying to make these systems work the way they were designed and start making them work the way we need them to work. The aliens built each component to integrate perfectly with their own technology. We build bridges between incompatible systems, bridges made of what? Victor asked. Improvisation, Sarah said, understanding dawning in her expression. Human manufacturing techniques, our materials, our programming languages, our complete lack of respect for how things are supposed to be done. The aliens see incompatibility because they're looking for perfect integration. We don't need perfect, we need functional. They worked in rotating shift, the stations corridors echoing with activity 24 hours a day. Different languages blended together as the international team collaborated. Technical jargon from half a dozen Earth nations mixed with translated alien terminology, creating a new hybrid vocabulary that belonged exclusively to Project Phoenix. Breakthroughs came in sudden bursts of insight. A programmer named Kenji Tanaka figured out how to write bridge code that allowed 8 different alien programming architectures to communicate. His solution involved treating each system as a separate language and creating a translation layer that didn't try to make them compatible but instead managed their incompatibilities. I stopped trying to make them speak the same language, Kenji explained, demonstrating his code to the assembled team. Instead, I built a mediator that understands all 8 languages and translates in real time. The systems still don't understand each other directly, but they don't need to. The mediator handles all communication. A materials engineer named Dr. Amara Oe discovered that human titanium carbon composites could be bonded to mechs. Adaptive plating using electromagnetic welding techniques that no alien species had ever attempted. The resulting hybrid material combined the structural integrity of human engineering with the adaptive properties of mexer technology. The aliens would never try this because their material science is based on purity and precision, Amara explained, showing the test results. They want clean, predictable reactions. Human metallurgy has always been about mixing materials, creating alloys, combining different properties. We've been doing Hybrid engineering since we first mixed copper and tin to make bronze. 6 months into the project, they had progressed from individual component testing to system integration. The ship's frame was taking shape in Luna Station 7's largest construction bay. It looked nothing like any vessel humanity had ever built, and it bore no resemblance to standard Council designs either. The hull was covered in Mexer adaptive plating that shimmered with an eerie inner light. Internal structure combined human structural steel with alien support. Frameworks, power conduits ran in seemingly chaotic patterns that made perfect sense once you understood that they were routing energy between 8 incompatible systems. Dr. Chin stood in the center of the construction bay, slowly rotating to take in the entire project. It's beautiful in a completely terrifying way. He said, we've created something that shouldn't exist. Real test came when they attempted to integrate the power systems, the Vorith, bioorganic cores, the Ketherian, antimatter containment, and the Zenthian zero-point energy extractors, all needed to feed into a unified power distribution network according to every conventional engineering principle. Connecting these systems would result in catastrophic failure at best and a ship destroying explosion at worst. Victor had a different opinion. The aliens designed their reactors to operate at maybe 50 or 60% of theoretical maximum capacity. It gives them enormous safety margins, but humans have always had different risk tolerance. What if we run everything at 95% capacity? At 95%, if anything goes wrong, the ship becomes a very large bomb, Sarah pointed out. Yes, but if nothing goes wrong, we get power output that exceeds any council vessel of comparable size. The question is whether we're willing to accept the risk for the reward. Elena considered the mathematics, the probabilities, the potential consequences. Then she thought about the Titan colony, about 2,000 people dying while Council peacekeepers watch from orbit. She thought about Ambassador Vrax's condescending smile and his certainty that humanity would never amount to anything more than a third-tier species grateful for scraps. Do it, she ordered. We didn't come here to build something safe. We came here to build something that changes everything. The power integration required another 3 months of careful work. The team developed solutions that would have horrified Council engineers. They used human electrical systems to bridge incompatible alien power grids. They employed cooling systems that combined 6 different technological approaches. They built redundancies on top of redundancies, not because they expected everything to work perfectly, but because they assumed something would always be failing and needed backup. Then came the development of the artificial intelligence system. Dr. Yuki Matsuda arrived during month 9, summoned specifically for this challenge. She was a small woman with intense dark eyes and a reputation for creating AI systems so adaptive and unpredictable that the Council had banned her research as potentially dangerous. You've built a ship that operates on controlled chaos, Yuki said after reviewing the specifications. 8 incompatible systems forced to work together through constant improvisation and adjustment. Conventional AI would try to optimize this into stability, which would destroy everything you've accomplished. What do we need instead? Elena asked. Yuki smiled. We need an AI that embraces Chaos, one that doesn't try to make the systems cooperate smoothly, but instead manages their conflicts dynamically. Think of it as a conductor leading an orchestra where every musician is playing a different style of music. AI doesn't make them play the same song. It finds harmony in the discord. She took 4 months instead of they projected 3, but the result was worth the delay. The AI system she created was unlike anything in the Council's databases. Instead of following rigid protocols, it learned through experience, adapted to unexpected situations, and made decisions based on outcomes rather than established procedures. They named it Phoenix after the project itself. The first full power-up test nearly ended in disaster. Elena watched from the command center as Chin initiated the startup sequencer. Power began flowing through the ship systems, and for approximately 30 seconds everything functioned perfectly. Then the chaos erupted. Every system went haywire simultaneously. The mech's hull plating flickered between solid and semi-phasied states without control. The Xenthian shields activated and deactivated in random patterns. The Cethuran weapons began charging on their own. Navigation system started calculating jump coordinates to random points in space. Alarms blared in 8 different frequencies, creating a cacophony that was almost musical in its discord. Shut it down, someone shouted. I'm trying. Chin had both hands on the control interface, typing override commands. The systems are fighting each other for control. Vorith Core thinks it's in charge. The Calthuran containment disagrees, and the Xenthian systems are trying to arbitrate, using protocols that none of the others recognize. Elena grabbed the command console. Phoenix, can you hear me? The AI's voice emerged from the speakers, perfectly calm despite the chaos. I hear you, Commander. Systems are experiencing integration conflict. This is expected behavior. Expected. We're about to lose the entire ship. Negative. Commander, I am learning the ship's operational parameters under stress. Chaos is necessary for adaptation. Please stand by for 20 minutes. The Phoenix AI made millions of micro adjustments, learning how to balance the conflicting systems, finding patterns, the disorder, creating harmony from incompatibility. Gradually the chaos resolved itself. The hull stabilized. The shields found their rhythm. The weapons powered down in an orderly fashion. The alarms quieted one by one. When everything finally settled, the ship hummed with contained power that felt almost alive. All systems stable. Chin reported, wonder evident in his voice. Power distribution optimal. Integration successful. Commander, we did it. We actually did it. Sarah ran her hands through her hair, looking simultaneously exhausted and exhilarated. The council said this was impossible. They were so certain that incompatible technologies couldn't be integrated. They never imagined that chaos could be controlled without being eliminated. 3 weeks later, Inspector Korvax arrived for a routine facility audit. He was Trellic, vaguely insectoid in appearance, with compound eyes and mandibles that clicked when he spoke. His presence was unexpected and potentially catastrophic. If he discovered Project Phoenix, the Council would shut them down immediately. The team moved with practiced efficiency. They activated holographic projectors throughout the station, replacing the image of their hybrid warship with standard human patrol craft in various stages of construction. Phoenix itself was powered down to minimal emissions. Disguised among the false vessels, every piece of exotic technology was hidden or camouflaged as conventional equipment. Korvax moved through the station with bureaucratic thoroughness, examining systems, checking manifests, asking pointed questions. Alina answered each one carefully, staying as close to the truth as possible without revealing the project's true nature. These patrol crafts seem adequate for human defensive needs, Korvax said, his translator rendering his clicking speech into English. Though I detect some unusual power signatures, your reactors are running hotter than standard safety protocols recommend. We've been experimenting with efficiency improvements, Chin said smoothly, trying to get more output from the Council's generous technology donations. Korvax's mandibles clicked in what might have been disapproval. Innovation is admirable, but safety protocols exist for valid reasons. The Council has centuries of experience with these technologies. Humanity has only years. Perhaps more caution would be prudent. We in LT, UNC, and GT LL take that under advisement. Inspector Alina said, after 6 hours of inspection. Korvax departed his report, noting some minor protocol deviations, but nothing that warranted further investigation. The moment his ship cleared the station sensor range, the entire team erupted in relieved celebration. That was too close, Victor said. If he'd used deep penetration scanners or requested physical inspection of the ships themselves, we would have been exposed. Then we'd better finish this quickly. Alina replied, how long until we're ready for a flight test? Chin consulted his calculations. 2 weeks for final system checks, another week for integration testing, 3 weeks total if everything goes perfectly, which it won't realistically. Maybe 5 weeks. You have 3 weeks. Alina said, I just received intelligence that the Council is planning another inspection in a month. By then we need to be either flight ready or gone. The final preparations were exhausting. The team worked around the clock, surviving on stimulants and sheer determination. Every system was tested, retested, and tested again. The Phoenix AI ran thousands of simulations, learning to handle every possible scenario they could imagine, and several they couldn't. On a Tuesday morning, 3 weeks and 2 days after Korvax's inspection, they were ready. The crew assembled on the bridge, a space that looked more like the intersection of 8 different ship designs than a unified command center. Alina strapped herself into the captain's chair, feeling the neural interface connections press against the base of her skull. All personnel secured, Shin reported from engineering. Power systems at optimal levels. This will either work spectacularly or fail catastrophically. Phoenix, are you ready? Alina asked. The AI's voice was steady, confident. All systems integrated and standing by. Commander, I am ready to fly. Then let's show the galaxy what humanity can do. Released docking clamps, thrusters to station, keeping the ship shuttered as it separated from Luna Station 7. For a moment everything held steady as Phoenix drifted into open space. Then 3 hull plates detached from the port side, tumbling away into the darkness. Alarms screamed. Red lights flashed across every console. Hull breach. Someone shouted. Sections 12 through 17 exposed. Those sections are empty, the Phoenix AI reported calmly. No personnel At risk, hull plating quantum bonding. Failed under initial thrust stress. Compensating, the remaining mexer. Plating flickered through several colors, then solidified with a coherence that exceeded all previous tests. Alarms quieted, hull integrity now exceeds pre-launch specifications. Phoenix announced the adaptive plating. Required stress to find optimal configuration. I have learned we may proceed. Alina took a deep breath. Main engines ahead slow, the ship moved forward, accelerating smoothly into the black. They flew for 20 minutes through empty space, testing maneuverability, weapon systems, shield response. Everything worked with an efficiency that seemed almost miraculous given what they had built. Then they attempted their first faster-than-light jump. Universe twisted in ways that made Alina's stomach revolt. Space folded incorrectly, and instead of a smooth transition through subspace, the ship tore through reality like a bullet. Through paper, the jump lasted 3 seconds, but felt eternal when normal space reasserted itself. They had traveled 5 million km instead of the planned 1 million. More importantly, they had proven that Project Phoenix could fly. We did it, Sarah whispered, staring at the sensor readings in disbelief. We actually built a functional warship from 8 species worth of incompatible scrap metal.